Have you ever noticed that in the original Star Wars trilogy, the Emperor is never in a scene unless Darth Vader is present also? I think there's a very interesting reason for this. Of course, one way to view the Emperor is simply as the ultimate villain who rules the Empire and seeks to control the galaxy. After all, in several scenes, he's referred to as a character who fits just that description.
How will the Emperor maintain control without the bureaucracy?
The Emperor commands you to make contact with him.
The Emperor's coming here?
Even the rebels refer to him in Return of the Jedi.
The Emperor's made a critical error and the time for our attack has come.
And while it's perfectly valid to view the Emperor simply as a character who's active in the story of Star Wars, he actually serves a dual purpose in the narrative. More than a character, he's best understood as a symbolic representation of darkness, specifically the manifest darkness within the character of Darth Vader and the potential darkness within Luke Skywalker. Even in the scenes where the Emperor is mentioned, he's still shrouded and elusive, almost as if he's there but not there. And when we finally see him, this concept is reinforced, as he appears not as a person, but as a great hologram, a huge shadowy figure who's in control of even Darth Vader himself.
What is thy bidding, my master?
It's important that Vader calls the Emperor Master, because if we go deeper than the relational dynamic between these two characters, the term Master ultimately refers to the part of Vader that's in control of him, his darkness, his egoic self that's solely concerned with controlling everything around and within him, the part of him that has no morality or identifiable shred of goodness. So if we view the Emperor as a symbolic representation of Vader's darkness, it becomes quite interesting that, in this scene, Vader is actually talking to himself. Up to this point in The Empire Strikes Back, Vader has dedicated a large part of the Imperial fleet and its resources to finding Luke, but then he's suddenly called to make contact with the Emperor. Now, in terms of the Emperor as a character, Vader is sort of playing along as if they're both uncovering Luke as a potential threat to their power at the same time, even though in reality, Vader has already been aware of Luke and has gone behind the Emperor's back to pursue him. However, if Vader is actually talking to an aspect of himself more than another character, then we can infer that he's really confronting his own actions in pursuing Luke. What exactly is he doing in taking the whole fleet to pursue just one target? If Luke were any other Jedi on the rise, Vader would simply seek to kill him. But it's actually Vader's good side that has become aware of his familial connection with Luke, and is in large part informing his actions. So he needs this dialogue with his inner darkness to confirm that his goal is to convert Luke to the dark side of the Force, and if that's not possible, he'll indeed destroy him. Vader can't acknowledge the undercurrent of goodness that is clearly in the mix of his conflicting motivations and what that goodness might represent within him, so he has to be sure that he anchors his actions to his darkness. The dual nature of the Emperor is apparent in Ben Kenobi's dialogue as well. He initially states that
Vader was seduced by the dark side of the Force.
But later he says,
Luke, I don't want to lose you to the Emperor the way I lost Vader.
And he concludes by saying,
If you choose to face Vader, you will do it alone. I cannot interfere.
So if we connect these three pieces of dialogue, we can see that Ben uses the terms dark side of the Force and the Emperor almost interchangeably in terms of what seduced Vader. And he speaks of not wanting to lose Luke to the Emperor as well. But Luke is not rushing off to confront the Emperor, he's rushing off to confront Vader. So Ben is really concerned about not losing Luke to the temptations of the dark side that Vader will offer him, which can happen without the character of the Emperor being present. Vader makes a few more seemingly offhanded references to the Emperor, and one important one regarding overthrowing him. These lines merit deeper analysis, but we'll cover them in a series of videos dealing with Vader's psychology. For now, in Return of the Jedi, the Emperor finally makes his appearance in the flesh. But even in this scene, we get more of the concept of Vader talking to his own darker self.
The Death Star will be completed on schedule.
I sense you wish to continue your search for young Skywalker.
In this exchange, Vader is again rationalizing his desire to find Luke and trying to balance that with his obligations as an agent of the Empire. The Emperor then says,
Only together can we turn him to the dark side of the Force.
This exchange illustrates Vader's conflict as he reinforces to himself that he must be firmly together with or connected to his darker nature in order to convert Luke. This is almost a conversation between Vader's good side and bad side. Now, I know it may seem like a stretch that Vader is talking to himself in some of these scenes, but remember, we're analyzing the Emperor's duality as a character and a symbol. He serves both functions in the story. On Dagobah, Yoda warns Luke about the Emperor by saying,
Do not underestimate the powers of the Emperor.
But he's not warning Luke as much about the character of the Emperor and his physical powers as he is emphasizing the dangers of the darkness that can lure Luke away from the good side. Ben mentions the Emperor several times in this conversation with Luke. He first tells Luke that if he doesn't face Darth Vader and can't kill him, then
The Emperor has already won.
Interestingly, he doesn't imply that victory lies in killing the Emperor, but in killing Vader. He then says,
To protect you both from the Emperor, you were hidden from your father when you were born.
Here he's emphasizing protecting the twins from the Emperor, but by hiding them from Vader. That's an interesting line. What he's concerned about is hiding the twins from Vader and his connection to the dark side because of what this might lead to for them. He goes on saying,
The Emperor knew, as I did, if Anakin were to have any offspring, they would be a threat to him.
And then he admonishes Luke to bury his feelings deep down because
They could be made to serve the Emperor.
So in this conversation, Ben refers to the Emperor only in terms of his connection with Vader. Is he discussing a character? Yes. But more so, he's discussing the very real dangers of the darkness within Vader that the Emperor symbolically represents. Later, we get more of the motif of Vader talking to an aspect of himself. It's striking that Vader says,
My son is with them. I have felt him, my master.
And the Emperor replies,
Strange that I have not.
This is a clear example of Vader struggling within himself. It's his good side that's able to sense Luke on Endor. His darker side can't sense Luke, but he still must inform and consult with this part of himself in order to stay connected to it and allow it to guide his actions. When Luke and Vader have their conversation on Endor, we get an interesting blend of the Emperor being spoken of as a person and a representation of darkness, really taking full advantage of the duality of the character. Vader indicates that the Emperor is expecting Luke and is correct about how powerful he's become. Luke speaks of the Emperor in terms of an esoteric evil that has tried to drive the good out of Vader, but that Vader will hopefully not expose Luke to. Vader concludes by again conflating the power of the dark side with his master, the Emperor, into one singular thing. The term master as a synonym for darkness now becomes something that Vader claims will control Luke as well. Luke then comes into physical confrontation with the Emperor. We see more of his face now, which is ancient and withered, reinforcing that we're dealing with something that has been around for a very long time. It's almost as if this elusive character has been drawn out of the shadows by the potential for change that Luke represents. In terms of the personification of Vader's darkness, the Emperor is emerging now because Luke represents a threat to Vader's identity, so he needs his darkness on full display. He's both submissive to and instinctively protective of it. But the Emperor also begins to represent Luke's potential darkness, which he's in conflict with as well. As these scenes move forward, the Emperor's dialogue is masterfully executed. His lines seamlessly move between representing the antagonist of the rebellion.
It was I who allowed the Alliance to know the location of the shield generator.
Vader's darkness.
By now you must know your father can never be turned from the dark side.
And the voice of temptation drawing Luke dangerously close to the dark side.
Take your Jedi weapon. Use it. I am unarmed.
Ultimately, we see the Emperor defeated by both Luke and Vader. Luke is able to overcome his potential darkness by embracing compassion and choosing a course of nonviolence. Vader's struggle is more arduous. The evil and violence of his dark side comes lashing out in a final attempt to maintain control. But as he witnesses the insidious pain and destruction that his darkness ultimately leads to, Vader is at last able to connect with his compassion as well, as he casts away the evil that has dominated him for so long in one final act of salvational redemption. This is what makes Star Wars so incredibly good. We have a character who's more symbol than person, but who functions effortlessly in these dual roles, and who physically interacts with the main characters in their most profound moments. It's just so beautifully done. This kind of symbolism is found in other myths and legends as well. For example, in the ancient epic the Ramayana, the primary villain Ravana represents the human ego lost solely in itself and completely ignorant of divinity and love. This depth of symbolism is part of what makes the Ramayana a major part of Indian culture to this day. And some of our modern myths have symbolic representations of elusive darkness as well, like the character of Sauron in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. These depictions allow us to interact with the narratives in ways that benefit us more than simply portraying a villainous character who we can't really identify with in our daily lives. The Emperor represents the struggles we all go through with negative thoughts and damaging or even self-destructive mindsets. Thought is a difficult foe. Negative thoughts aren't always obviously apparent, yet they tend to lead to seemingly intractable habits and actions that can harm ourselves and others. And if negative actions go too far, they can lead to consequences we can't even foresee. Though these consequences might not be as striking as lightning emanating from the dark side of the Force, they can be things that significantly affect our lives and the lives of those around us. But we should remember that thought, though it seems large and looming, is ultimately insubstantial. With continuous effort and the support of others, our darker aspects can ultimately be cast away. This is by no means easy, but we can overcome negative thoughts, habits, and actions and transform our lives for the better. I wish you much success with any such transformative journeys you may be personally embarking upon. Thanks so much for watching, and may the Force be with you.